National credit ratings agency Moody says it is satisfied with the political changes in South Africa, but it still warns that the recession will make it more difficult for the country to tackle its structural and fiscal deficits. Now, the ratings agency is worried about policy uncertainty and its impact on growth and investment. CGTN Sumitra Nydoo tells us more.
Moody's might have to recalculate its growth outlook for South Africa now that the economy is in recession. It's the only rating agency out of 3 that hasn't cut South Africa to junk. In March this year, changed its outlook on South Africa to stable from negative due to an improved policy framework.
The balance of risk honestly has slightly moved since March, a bit to the downside because of the disappointing economic growth. But that being said, I think that overall we're still seeing the same balance, which is political commitment is there, macroeconomic policy framework is there, and it's an effective one. So the tools are there, the willingness is there. The thing is, the task is a bit more difficult than it was in March.
Moody's this week changed its outlook for the South African banking sector to stable from negative. The ratings agency believes profits will be strained because of low growth and higher costs, but it expects funding and liquidity will remain stable. It also expects that the mining sector will manage the volatile currency and commodity markets.
You're also now having a currency offset, which is what's unique when you look at the South African mining spaces. Yes, the prices come down, but the rand depreciates. So if you look at, and that's how we look at the mining operations here, we look at them in rand terms. So they're remaining broadly flat. So that's what's very unique. If you look at the mining sector, they're not actually impacted by this volatility.
Last year, both S&P and Fitch cut the country's credit rating to sub-investment grade. Moody's held back, allowing South Africa's new political leadership to effect changes. The agency seems to be satisfied with some of the actions taken thus far, especially in areas of addressing good governance. New boards have been appointed at state-owned entities, and there's new leadership at the South African Revenue Services.
Not only state-owned enterprises, but the own central government itself. And I'm most thinking of, the revenue agency, where there have been some movement there. So, of course, we've seen that the first steps were on that front, and I think, at least from my perspective, it makes sense because the government is fully in control of this. These are state-owned enterprises.
But Moody's is still concerned about policy uncertainty.
Moody's is still flagging issues around policy in South Africa. The government still needs to make clear what it's going to do with its mining charter and also needs to make the terms and references clear on land expropriation without compensation.
It looks like Moody's will hold off making any ratings decision until after the elections next year, which provides some breathing space for South Africa. Sumitra Nydoo, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.